Homelessness 2.0, day 42. Maintenance for me is virtually an impossibility. To do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, even if it's for like a month or two. It's so difficult to be able to do the same thing. I've already had one grilled cheese, yes. But what about second grilled cheese? So I'm going to make a second grilled cheese. Oh, man. I figured I liked the last version of this, so why not do it again? It's kind of like how out in Elizabeth, Brown, Alton Brown and Elizabeth, damn it, I can never remember his wife's last name. Because she's kind of like, she's done her own thing for so long. She's like an interior decorator, but like on a professional level. Anyway, figured I'd show it a little bit. I'm plugged in, so I'm kind of tethered, but throwing in the butter, putting it on kind of low. I need to clean this a little bit. Let's like about 4-ish. But this is how they do like their quarantine kitchen, which is no longer quarantine for the most part because, hey, despite the fact that COVID's not over, nobody's quarantining anymore because, you know what? We said fuck it. There's no point in continuing to try to flatten the curve because let's just go ahead and make everything worse. Because my freedoms could have been over, but whatever. I've already said my piece on that front for the most part. So I'm letting the butter melt. I'm not letting it go crazy though, because I can get like, it's a good idea with regards to butter. At least it depends on circumstance. It depends on application. That's the fun thing about cooking. Depending on your application, the exact same process can be done differently. And right now, I'm slowly melting the butter. I think it's actually going a little faster than I want it. Because really what I'm trying to do is I'm just melting it so I can put these little bad boys on there, have them soak them up, and then take them off. And then I'll put some olive oil on there, and then flip. So I'll show you. When the time comes. It's getting to the point soon where I've got to put it on there. But, I'm just trying to create a nice, even layer of butter all over the place. And I've got this little bad boy to help keep it from getting, too far up the sides of the pan. This is me trying to be conservative with my, 2 tablespoons of butter that I don't want to... I want to get as much of the butter as possible into the bread. I don't want it to burn. I don't want it to go to waste. And so the silicone stirry spatula, I don't even know what these are called technically. And I don't know. I'm thinking this is probably a mouse bite, and I'm not happy about that. But at least I've cleaned it since. Okay. So the butter's nice and melted, nice little pool. Take a piece of bread. I'm sure you know how to make a grilled cheese sandwich, but I'm doing it slightly different. So now we're going to move it up to the side a little bit. So we can move it down. Kind of coat a little bit of the edges, but also get more surface area there. That, right? Now, there's still lots of butter there. And doing this with one hand is kind of a pain in the ass, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the first piece of toast that's not toast yet. I'm flipping it over. So now you'll see buttered side, not so buttered side. Delicious. And then I'm going to move this piece around, scooping up as much of the butter as I can for the most part. Try not to go crazy on it. And the reason why is because I need a little bit more for the other side too. But I'm just trying to get it coated on that. So I've coated it. Now I'm going to see if I can do this one-handed without making a mess. And now we just move it over here. And then We just set it down because now it's double buttered sides. Now, we've got a little bit of butter remaining. To me, not enough. So we throw in a little bit of olive oil. Not a whole lot. Doesn't need to be crazy. And then we're going to let that heat up. Mix it in. Oops. Not showing you the action because trying to do this one-handed while connected with a wire. It's a little bit difficult. So video production, it's not as easy as people think it is. Especially when you're dealing with cooking. I'm trying to show you, but notice it's getting a little browner. I think my a piece of butter was a little bit shy, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you see the sky, as it were. Scrape this goodness up, turn the heat down just a little bit so it doesn't brown too much more. Throw in a little bit more olive oil, because again, I'm trying to find like sort of a balance overall of like surface area. Because the point, and see, I'm taking the pan off the heat at this point because it's, putting it on, taking it off, because you don't want it necessarily to just stay hot and, continue getting hotter and then continue to burn the butter. Brown butter's good. Burnt butter sucks. And remember, brown butter is love. So now I'm just going to try to coat the pan. It's not going to be perfect, but I'm trying to get as much of it as I can. I'm, reheating the pan just a little bit so that it maintains not just a liquid state, but a pretty fluid state. Because, when you heat up oil, it becomes even more liquid, more fluid, less viscous. All right, pan back on. Now, this is an unbuttered side of bread, so we just put that there. So now the buttered side is up. This buttered side is up. So just put that there as it was. Boom. Olive oil and butter. So good. So good. I'm getting a paper towel that I have in the other room that I used earlier. Now, while that is toasting on that side, I'm splitting the cheeses into triangles. Just fold them in half. Doesn't matter how well they break. I mean, cheddar basically just crumbled because it's sharp. It's an aged cheddar at that point. So now we've got some effectively, the Havarti torn in half pretty well. Munster, it's a little on the oblong-ish, rectangular instead of square, and then of course cheddar being what it is. So now check the other sides because I don't want them going crazy toasty. The last one I had wasn't bad. It was just a little more done than I wanted. And again, the reason, I could have gotten Havarti and Munster and provolone, and those all be great melty cheeses. But one of the problems, especially with three really melty cheeses is that they will melt really well. And then what happens is then you end up getting all the cheese pulling out onto the skillet. And then you start crispy cheese is good stuff. But it's not necessarily what I want in a grilled cheese sandwich. I want the ooey gooey cheesy stuff. And so the lack of meltiness of the sharp cheddar not only provides flavor. Oh, one of the things, I don't really need to flip those just yet. One of the things I also want to do, so if you notice, it's still kind of shiny. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to push as much of this down here as possible. It'll be easier once I put my phone down because then I can have more control over the pan. But I'm trying to push all the shininess down because I want that absorbed into the bread. So I'm just kind of scraping along, letting the spatula kind of lift up the bread a little bit because it's helping it toast. Yeah, I could just let it sit there on its own and it would toast. But where's fun in that? Alright? Where's the fun in just dry toast when you can have a little bit extra flavor? Plus, oil, fats, they help toasting better. They just help make it happen easier. Now it's time to flip. I can already tell it's not like golden or anything. It's just kind of like the same color as it was for the most part. It's slightly more golden. Turn the heat up just a touch, not a lot. All right, now the buttered sides are down, and so what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna lay cheeses on here however we want. As long as we get good coverage, yeah, let's go put you there. And then we'll put you there like that. It's great. Fun. And then we'll close up the sandwich. That way. And see, part of this, see, again, hard to aim when you're trying to, when you're dealing with fire. But part of the process, you're closing it up. But part of the reason why I want to do this whole inside toasty thing is also to help get the cheeses melting. But it also helps add just a touch more crisp. I'm trying to heat up just a little bit. Now, before I do that, put the phone back down. And I'm scraping up, again, more of the shiny. I'm scooching it towards the bread. That's going to give me crispier edges. I'm trying to invoke the Maillard reaction here. It's the whole point of a grilled cheese sandwich. It's the whole point of toast. It's the whole point of cooking. We're trying to make things tasty with chemistry, with the Maillard reaction. And I don't know exactly how the Maillard reaction works. Apparently, there's still a lot of actual, real scientific debate about how and why this works the way that it does. Sometimes it deals with sugars. That's one of the sort of hypotheses. There's a lot that goes into it. Okay, so I flipped it. It's still pretty golden. Like, just to give you an idea. That's not how I want it. It's good, but it's not exactly how I want it. I want it a little bit more on the brown side. I don't want it black, though. I want it brown. Like a light brown. Well, more of a brown. Close. I want this sort of even chaos. Because it's not all, like, you can see the light brown and the goldenness and stuff. I want that color more throughout. When it comes to meat and fat, they call it marbling. So I'm just going to use that term. I want more marbled Maillard brownness on my toast. And that's the thing about toast and food in general. A lot of it has to do with taste. There's texture involved as well. When it's more brown, it's going to be crunchier. It's going to be, it's going to have that texture. So flipping. Okay, so to give you an idea here, I want it more like this. A little bit darker. This needs some more work, but I flipped it over to the other side for the time being. So one of the things, this was, I want to say, it was J. Kenji Lopez Alt. I could be wrong, but I believe it was the Food Lab who they did like legitimate, rigorous science to determine how best to cook like a hamburger or a steak. And the best way to cook it all the way through is to flip it multiple times. It cooks faster and it cooks more thoroughly. Now, one of the things that you're going to get, especially when it comes to any kind of pushback from that, is that you got to have it sit on a certain side for X time, and then you got to keep it on that side, and then when you flip it, you only flip it once. And there's blah 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 reason and all this stuff. Well, Most of those reasons are because of professional cooking situations. Almost all of the big pro chefs are telling you this because that's how it works best in a restaurant. Because that is a specific environment that needs certain behaviors done a certain way in order to optimize time. It's a lot easier to cook 12 steaks at once if you put them all in and then you only flip them all once instead of babying each one of them. But when you're at home, it's okay to baby a steak. It's okay to baby a burger. Okay, so this one is like right at the point where I'm like, okay, we're getting to the point where I could go further, but I don't want to. This is really where I prefer it. It's on the darker side. It's more dark than it is light, but it's not burnt. And it's going to be nice and crispy. Listen to this. So crispy. That's going to have a nice crunchy bite. And because on the inside, it's not like super soft. Now, if you want it to be super soft on the inside, good for you. The interior of the bread is going to be soft because I buttered the shit out of it. But like, I like having more crunch throughout because the cheese is where the soft and the gooey is. And so there's that contrast, that heterogeneity. This could stand a little bit more time. Heterogeneity is a good thing, for the most part. Is it always optimal to have heterogeneity? Not necessarily. Is it always optimal to have homogeneity? Not necessarily. The one thing I like about how Adam Agrusia has been doing his videos recently is like often, especially on his recipe videos on Thursdays, he will finish, and it's not always, but often, he will finish with, you do you. And I like that. First, he explains, and I'm about to start running some water here. He explains that his recipe is specifically for one purpose or another. It's because he wants to find a better way of doing it, or he wants to find out why it was done a certain way, and then to see if it can be done more efficient and more optimized, especially for the home cook, because that's what he is. And that's one of the reasons why I really like his channel. And I have suspicions that he's ADD too. Because, and I mean, I only have suspicions. I've done literally no work to determine this. And the reason I have suspicions is because of several things. One, almost all of his videos are ADHD friendly in that regard. Like, he wants to minimize pan usage. It's like, how do we minimize steps from the beginning to the end to complete the task? That's what I try to do. Getting back to the whole maintenance thing. Whether it's sweeping or whatever, it's minimizing what needs to be done from A to B. And so, you know how I had everything put out on the plate. One of the things about cooking in general, cooking, baking, doesn't matter, is called mise en place. And that's when you have everything in place. In film production, they have mise en scene. Everything in scene. It's the setting. And I could be a little bit off on that, but that's what I recall. But it's effectively all the same. It's everything set up. In a specific way, for a specific purpose. You want to have everything mise en place. You want everything mised up before you start cooking, generally, because it just makes your life easier. So then you only have to do this thing. You don't have to, it's like I just made a grilled cheese sandwich. The last thing you want to do is, while you're in the process of starting your bread, to then go to the fridge, pull out the cold cheese, and then start doing whatever you got to do, and then worry about the... God, look how good that looks. Like, and the bread got kind of broken a little bit on the crust, so like parts of it a little bit more crunchy than others. I gotta admit, nice and gooey on the inside, but not like so melted that it's like oozing out the side. Like, oozing out a little bit there, but I mean, it's not like it's coming out everywhere. One of my best grilled cheeses. One of my best. And I've been making, since I got here, I've been making grilled cheeses pretty regularly. Now, I could do the whole, like, mayonnaise thing, but that's just a container that I don't want to have to carry around and stuff. But, like, I think it relates to what I was talking about. Maintenance is like, if I made grilled cheeses every single day for every meal, not only would I get bored just because there was a lack of variety, but then I would get bored of doing the behaviors that are necessary to do it. Now, I haven't cleaned up as much as I should have, because I can barely maintain the cleanliness of my own mind, let alone anything else. Now, I know back in the earlier days, and see, now it's the residual heat, carryover heat. It's gotten even a little bit more gooey, and the cheese is breaking a little bit, so you're kind of getting this, like, some greasy spots. Again, heterogeneity. It's great stuff. But like, if I was staying here, let's say I was paying $1,000 a month instead of $2,200, I'd stay here. I mean, yeah, it would eat up most of my money for the next year. But at least I would know, and hearkening back to previous videos, I think it's just a little too high. Oops. I would know that I would be staying here. I would know that I could plan. I could plan ahead for a whole 6 months of my life. And even though I'm still not good at doing the same thing over and over again, some of the things that I could do would be easier. I would go buy me a bottle of mayonnaise, and then I would, switch it up a little bit. Because I could probably make a small bottle of mayonnaise last within that time frame. I would cook more things, more other things. But that's not what my future looks like. I'm homeless. I have been for so long. One of the things that has been indicative of at least a sense of homefulness is having, within my mind, a permanent address where, and although I've said that I don't feel that that I feel that I have been homeless the entire time I've lived in LA, again, it's not just like an on-off switch. It's not binary. There's aspects to homelessness that can exist within, I think, being housed. One of them is easier to overcome, and that is having something that is resembling a permanent address. So one of the things that happens this time of year is Secret Santa on various websites. Reddit and Imgur are two websites that I use on a regular basis. and they both do a Secret Santa of some kind. I haven't participated in most of them that I've known about in the last 10 years. I did a little bit when I first got out of homelessness, when I was living in Pasadena and I was living in a living room and stuff. But at the same time, the things that I would like to have, that I would like to potentially receive from somebody, are also indicative of how permanent I feel about my housing. It's like, I wasn't going to get I wasn't going to request something like a stand mixer or something, because how long was I going to be staying in that living room space? I don't know. So if I was going to ask for, some kind of kitchen thing, I might have asked for, a nice small set of higher quality dishes or something like that, or cookware. I thought the last place I was going to live at was going to be a bit more stable, and I jumped the gun. So now I have sitting in storage that I've only taken a couple of the things out. I have a really nice set of Anchor glass storageware. Really good quality. I want to say it was something like maybe $60 to $80 for the set. And it's not a whole lot. Like, you get one big container. It's like a 4-quart, I think. Or a 2-quart, I don't remember. I think it's 2-quart. 4 cups. And then there's like 2 twos and then like 8 ones, something like that. And I was thinking in my brain, when I move out of the sober living place and blah, 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 and I find this next place, because we had agreed that this was going to be a long-term thing too. But, when I met my old roommate from what then became the last house I lived at, when we had our first conversation, it was about longevity. Then, of course, months later, COVID starts, spreading and everything and ruining shit and all sorts of other crap that cropped up. But I bought these things thinking that I would regularly be able to use them and that it wouldn't be a problem. And then, it became a problem because his mother was never cleaning anything. This is a mess. I'm going to show you. I'll show you my mess right now. I've got all these clean. These are all clean bottles. They just haven't thrown out. They're just lazy. The stove needs a little bit of a spot clean. Now, granted, I haven't been doing this for, this got a little bit of tomato sauce because I was cooking the other day. This, obviously, because of the same thing. So some of these dishes, these are all pretty much clean. This needs to be washed. Some dishes that I haven't taken care of and some other shit. Now, these utensils over here, other than the little guy here, they're clean. So half of this is clean. The other half is just, I haven't thrown it out yet. But even the tomato cans, I let them sit out so they could dry up. Because sometimes I'll just let them sit in the sink and then they get, little rusty spots on there and I gotta fucking clean that shit out. But this is also why I would benefit from just having a dishwasher. Because it's so much more work. It's also so much more wasteful. Dishwashers are much more efficient when it comes to using water. Which is why, boom, space for a dishwasher. Almost every kitchen has the room for the 4 basics. A full-size fridge, a stove, what would amount to a dishwasher, and a sink. Now, this sink doesn't have to be this big. I would say the main problem with this is that it needs to be down here. The neck needs to be further down. Because when you turn on the water and then you want to wash your hands, you're going to be splashing all over the place. And it happens all the time. That neck is too tall. And I need to, sweep and scrub the floors a little bit. And I'll do that toward the end of my time here. Maintenance is hard. But at least I have a second grilled cheese. Speaking of second breakfast and all that, that was a whole reference, by the way. Merry and Pippin from Lord of the Rings have a podcast. It's called The Friendship Onion. You should listen to it. It's great. They have great chemistry. Dom, I still feels like is putting on a voice. But I don't know. Maybe that's his normal voice. I'm not sure. And that's not an accusation. I've done the same shit too. So. Yeah, I don't know how to finish this, so I guess I'll finish this. Rum and Coke and lime. Have fun.